Hey everybody, and welcome to a overview of the Final Girl Series 3 content here. Just a few days ago, I released a little bit of a prediction video looking at some of the pre-release materials, speculating on what the new location killers were going to be, maybe what some of their mechanics are, and now we have way more information now that the full page is live. It's been live for about a day and a half now, and so we're going to go through the 5 feature films, along with some cool new exciting stuff they added as some new stretch goals have been unlocked, and kind of just give you an idea of what I think these films are going to be about now that we have their contents. And if you're not going to back, all 5 boxes, maybe this will help you try to decide which ones are the most interesting to you based off the theme, based off the mechanics, and just give you an idea of what I think they're all going to be about. Of course, we don't have full rule releases yet, so this is still a bit of speculation, but based on the content and stuff, I think you can get a good idea of generally how these are going to play out. Now, this video is primarily going to be focused just on the Series 3 content. I have a pretty in-depth video on Series 1 and Series 2 where I go through all of the feature films, all the locations, and go over the rules pretty in-depthly. So if you are new to Final Girl and you kind of want an idea of how it plays and what is included in Series 1 and Series 2, if you wanted to go all in and get all of it as this campaign runs, be sure to check those videos out. They're very beginner-friendly and kind of help give you an idea of what this is all about. This video is really going to focus primarily on Series 3 as kind of just a general overview of what I think they're going to be about. Of course, you can get the Ultimate box here, which is all the feature films, and a couple extra boxes for some of the side miniatures and some other extra content here. The playmat goes up here. They look very slick on the shelf. I have this Ultimate Series 1 Series 2 box, and they look nice next to each other. Here's an overview on the feature film system. Again, check out my other videos if you kind of want more of an overview on the game. The core box here, of course, I feel like a broken record, right? You need at least one. You need one core box. Well, you only need one core box to play any of the feature films, but don't forget it. It looks like the content of the core box is pretty much the same as it has been. All right, now we get to the cool stuff. So let's look at the new feature films that are going to be in Series 3. Let's look at the new films that are going to be in Series 3. So up first, we have The Hunter and Sunny Days Mall. We were correct in thinking that it is very Terminator-inspired, very kind of neon 80s mall location. Unfortunately, we don't have maps yet for the new location, so we can't go too much onto detail there. However, reading the blurb about the Killer from Tomorrow set, I was really surprised that it is not just kind of Terminator 1, very simple, robot comes back in time, goes back in time to kill you. It is way more drawing from Terminator 2, which is obviously the best film in the franchise. And here you could see you're going to be protecting the Savior, right, your John Connor character, and you're first going to go up against this Mark V, right, your kind of like T-800 old model of Terminator. And then you're going to go up against the Mark X, right, your kind of like liquid metal shape-shifting one. And so that's such a, I know my prediction videos, I felt a little down on this one, right? Because I was like, okay, whatever, killer robot, that's cool. But the fact that you're going to be fighting 2 of these, and you have the chance to reprogram the first one to help you, right? Very much trying to teach Arnold how to be a good guy in T2. That is such a cool twist on this, and that has really kind of recalibrated how I feel about this box, right? That fact you can convert the killer to be an ally is really, really cool, and a great twist on this. I'm really glad the direction they went with this. So you can see here, these aren't the highest resolution of cards, but you can see your pretty normal stuff. I'm only going to point out the new content or the new stuff that's in each of these feature film boxes. You can see here there's these Savior cards. So I imagine kind of a secondary goal of this box is going to be, right, if the Savior dies, that's another losing condition. But it looks like they're going to have some kind of action cards that the Savior will also help you in some way or hurt you, right? You could see there's some like losing time here, but it's not clear yet what is going to determine what action those Savior does. Here we have our ally cards. So it looks like, again, once you beat that early form of the Mark V, then you can convert it in some way, and it looks like it'll have its own health pool and its own kind of like set of actions that you can perform. It looks like there'll be a little token here, and the track will kind of repeat or something along those lines. Here, the action card, I can't quite tell what this is. Build trust, but I can't quite tell what that says. I'm going to guess that it's a way to maybe convert the Mark V, right? Once you beat it, maybe you have to use this action to try to get it to help you, something along those lines. Pretty normal stuff here. Dark power, power cards, tarot cards, tokens, item cards, all that good stuff. Looking at the miniatures here, we have our Mark V. I'm going to guess here this is the Mark X, I think, right? This is like, you could see the shape-shifting arm here, very much like that liquid metal that the more advanced Terminators have. We have our two final girls on the left and the right here. This one looks so badass with the sunglasses. I thought I was going to like the more kind of like camo hat wearing one, but this one looks badass. And here we have like our John Connor-esque middle finger 90s punk guy here. And of course the vehicle for this is the motorcycle, pretty iconic for Terminator, so that is a solid choice there. So yeah, overall I think the killer from tomorrow, that aspect of having two killers that will kind of beat one, then the other one will come. I wonder if there'll be like a timer, like if you don't beat the first one fast enough, will the second one come? I'm curious to see what the exact rules are, but that idea of having the ability to convert a killer is really unique and very cool. I think my approximation of this box really went up after actually seeing what they had in mind. So moving on to Hell to Pay. So I was already pretty excited about this one. Hellraiser, there's a new designer. I just like the kind of look of it overall. And I think it really caught me by surprise, right? This is pretty unprecedented for Final Girl. So let's jump over here to what's included in this box. And what I mean by that is that you can see the killer location. I thought it was going to be, right, that kind of lament configuration, solve a puzzle box to defeat the killer. I don't think that's going to be the case here. You can see problem solving is one of the new action cards, but I don't know if that's going to be, part of defeating the killer. We just don't know yet. But what really excited me and what really surprised me, because I think going into it, I was more excited for the killer, but now I'm more excited for the map. So you can see here the 8 Hellscape tiles. And so it would seem to me that this is going to be, they here in the blurb, they mentioned that the Hellscape is a maze that is ever changing. And so this is going to be, I think, the first modular map we have for a Final Girl box, right? So 8 Hellscape tiles, I'm going to guess that you're going to use 4 at a time, and then that'll build out your map, or maybe as you play, those tiles will shift and change. Balancing out exits and item locations. I'm really curious how they're going to pull that off with these tiles, but I think in terms of replayability and having a modular map like that is really, really cool. I'm really a big fan of that Hellscape tiles, and I'm really excited to see how they turn out. You can see here we have these 2 custom Hellscape dice. I can't even fathom what these are going to be, used for yet. These affliction cards. So here in the blurb, it also mentions that Razorface is a killer that will force you to reckon with yourself and deal with your, quote, afflictions. And so, I'm guessing, some kind of like inner demons, trauma type thing that you're going to have to overcome, possibly before fighting the killer, or maybe it's something you have to constantly deal with, you'll take damage or something like that. It's tough to tell how these are all going to play together. But again, that kind of Hellraiser, Cenobite kind of torturing you, like, playing on those weaknesses is a cool twist. I'm anticipating seeing these affliction cards to kind of better understand how they work together. It doesn't, not clear quite yet. The rest of it is pretty clear. Tarot cards, event items, all that good stuff. Here, the miniature for this looks very cool. I like the chain here. I think the 2 Final Girls look badass. That's like I don't know, like a dual dagger or something. Pretty cool. And I like the chariot miniature. Those are very tiny horses, but it's a cool vehicle nonetheless. So I think I'm very excited for this map. I think the killer looks cool. The affliction card seems like a cool twist. And I'm curious to see how the Hellscape dice are going to be used. They do look very cool and hellish though. So I think still pretty excited for the Razorface and Hellscape box. It is looking pretty good. Okay, so here we are. This is the one that I think going into it I was very excited for, and still equally excited for. Maybe slightly less, but still looking pretty good. And so the Falconwood Files, your nice Vincent Dutrait artwork. So here you can see peculiar things are happening in Falconwood, government experiments, you're very much Stranger Things. I think we knew that based on the font going into it, right? And what's included is really cool, but this is one of those cases where, almost like Ink and Yaba, that was a box that had a lot going on, and it sometimes would feel overwhelming. And so I'm curious to see if this one is going to veer in that territory and how it all integrates together. So we have, I think what really sticks out to me here are the mission sheets, the D20, these mission item cards. There's a lot going into this box. And so obviously with the D20, it's probably going to have some kind of, Dungeons and Dragons RPG kind of twist to it, right? Very much Hellfire Club, Stranger Things type stuff. So I'm curious if these are kind of side missions that you get to complete for some kind of bonus, maybe. We also have these mission item cards, so maybe you complete these missions and then you get, it looks like these are like spells or something along those lines. Maybe you get some very enhanced ability that, help you beat the killer, of course. Not quite obvious what is going on here. It's also not clear to me which of these are tied to the killer versus the location. I'm guessing that the mission sheets are going to be tied with the killer, and then the actual location, Falconwood, is where the mirrored victim meeples. You can see this action card here is open a rift, and so it'll play on that upside down kind of element that Stranger Things has, having victim meeples trapped there, having to go down there to save them and drag them out. So our final girls are mirrored victim meeples that will probably be spawning. In the setup card, I imagine. Oh, you can kind of see here. You can kind of see where these victims are spawning. That's interesting. It's almost like or maybe those aren't finished. Let's not read too much into it. But in any case, having probably an upside down element to that map. The D20, I'm curious to see how this is used. Adding more dice into Final Girl, I certainly can't complain. The action card, Open a Rift, right? Playing into that upside down thing. Terror cards, dark powers, all that good stuff. I absolutely adore this kind of like wispy kind of look that this killer has. Oh my gosh, look at this. The Octavian one, she's like holding, I like how fantasy heavy this one is. It's really, really cool. Very different for Final Girl that is usually a little more grounded and gritty. This is a cool twist on it. You can see she has like a fireball type thing in her hand with a spell book. What's the other Final Girl's name? Janelle. Janelle here has a slingshot, kind of like that very, backyard finding monsters. Teenagers doing it with the slingshot. That's very cool. It looks like a pizza delivery van here. So that's a funny vehicle there. Very cool. So overall, this one is actually, I thought this was going to be more of a simple one. It looks like there's a lot of moving parts to this one, which is equally very cool. I trust, like I said, Mike Martin's introduced the crafting system in Series 2. I think he has a good grasp on making these mechanics not feel too cumbersome or intimidating. And so while it does look like there's a lot going into this one, I think it will be integrated pretty well. I'm still very excited for this one, especially the mission sheets, alternative objectives, and Final Girl is always very fun to play with. And so looking really cool. All right, so here we finally get our confirmation that this is 100% Saw-inspired. So here we have the Merrick Murders here, right? The Tormentor and the Merrick Warehouse. And you can see the media has been fascinated with an unorthodox killer being referred to as the Tormentor. Death traps, such and such, right? You're very much your Jigsaw equivalent. I do like that they added a little bit of context to the warehouse. Like, how do you make a warehouse sound interesting? And so I appreciate that they gave a little blurb here, right? The Merrick Warehouse is a mid-sized warehouse that handles shipping and fulfillment for a variety of departments of brand catalog sales. And then, it gives them the warehouse security system is a state-of-the-art with a timed locking and unlocking mechanism for all the exits, including the bay doors. The management or whoever is in charge, the killer, can control everything both coming into and leaving the warehouse. So that's interesting here. I imagine it's going to play on the exit locations where you bring victims out of. Those are probably going to shift as the game goes on. I don't think we've had a map that plays on that quite yet, right? If the killer is going to shift these exits, right, you may be making a sprint to a bay door and it shuts on you during the killer phase and, you're left carrying a bunch of victims and nowhere to bring them. And so that sounds like a cool way, a cool twist on that map. I'm sure there'll be other stuff to it, but I'm digging that. Here, the two things that really stick out to me, of course, are the victim death trap cards. And so I don't know. You can see there's a whole bunch of victim slots for these. So maybe you have to I can't quite tell. You have to bring the victims there, or maybe every turn you don't put a victim there. It looks like there's like a health loss thing. So I'm guessing when you cover it up, you're going to lose health. But, or maybe when they resolve, everything you haven't covered up will affect you. I really can't quite tell, but it sounds like you're going to have to save victims around the map that are in these death traps. And of course, the Final Girl death traps, which I'm going to guess they're going to kill you if you don't do it, right? And so I'm really curious to see how these are going to be implemented with the victims, right? They have slots here, but how exactly is that going to work out? I don't know yet, but the traps seem really, really cool. It almost seems like an evolution, if you guys remember from Series 1, the Geppetto and Carnival of Blood set, right, where you have traps in the item deck. I like to see the traps come back, but it seems like these are way more integrated into the main mechanic of the board here. Okay, we got our finale card, terror cards, the action cards. I like that these are more like, I can't quite, I wish I could read what they do. We have leap and climb, and I'm really curious, maybe the warehouse will have like different tiers of stuff. I'm going to guess you're going to be way more limited in how you traverse this warehouse without these action cards. But I like action cards that aren't necessarily super dramatic all the time, but ways that kind of just integrate more naturally with the map. And I like the leap and climb seem like cool ones. In the Series 2, some of the extra boxes, there were some of those like, I forgot what they're called, but some of those extra action cards that you could play with. And so I just, in general, I like more action cards, right? Having more stuff to do, more variety is cool. And I'm glad to see these in here and integrated with the map that isn't just like a gimmick, but kind of a more natural way, if that makes sense. Event cards, item cards, and secret envelopes. Here, I really, really dig all the miniatures. Oh, the forklift is a forklift in a warehouse, but our two Final Girls, right? We have a chainsaw Final Girl, we have our kind of axe-wielding one here, and the Tormentor looks so badass. This is the second miniature with a chain. The Razorface also had one, but it looks cool with the drill, of course. I like how the mask looks there. So really cool. I obviously 100% kind of in that Saw territory. But it looks really cool. I'm excited for this one. I'm a fan of Saw. I think the traps are very kind of like they add that tension, like you're ticking down to a trap that is going to kill you. So that's really cool. So going into our fifth box here, we have Don't Make a Sound. And this is another one. I got to say, the two that I was kind of the most lukewarm on really brought me back around after seeing the actual details of what's going to be in this box. And I'll tell you why. And it's two words, sand and worm. And that is going to be the secondary threat here in the Don't Make a Sound box. And they're not even necessarily related to each other, right? This is very much the eyeless is the killer for this box. And then Utopia is again, this is another case where kind of like the Hell to Pay box where the location has me almost more excited than the killer. And so, of course, you're going to have these sandworms running around this map. And actually, this is the only box where we have a preview of the map. The Merrick warehouse, you can kind of see there. Hell to Pay obviously doesn't have it. And Sunny Days Mall also doesn't have it. So you can see Utopia. You could see some more detail here. You can see there's a couple spots that have these like sinkholes, which I imagine if you end up stopping in one of them, bad things are going to happen. Looking at what's included in the box, we have these 12 Sand Snake cards. So maybe when you step on one of those holes, you reveal one of those Sand Snake cards, and then something will happen. The noise marker, again, obviously with the eyeless playing into that, a quiet place, sensitive to hearing monster. Maybe when you do certain actions, you'll leave behind a noise marker, and that will kind of like aggro the killer to come to that spot. This one is pretty straightforward. I take back what I said, where I thought the hunter is the welcoming, beginner-friendly box. From what I'm seeing here, I think Don't Make a Sound is leaning that way. It doesn't have any special action cards. Obviously, it has the Sand Snake cards, but that looks pretty straightforward. And then the noise marker. So I would say that if you're interested in a straightforward box, I think that this is the one to go with. From what I can tell from the description and what's included, it seems pretty straightforward, but I like that idea of kiting the monster around, controlling it, and I'm sure there's going to be terror cards and finale cards that will kind of, flip that on its head, but overall, seems like a pretty straightforward box. But again, I like the kind of more comic booky, lighthearted art to this, and I'm pretty excited. I like it. But again, I think this is probably the go-to box if you haven't played before and you're just kind of getting your feet wet with Final Girl. The finale, not the finales, the miniatures here. I like the bulldozer, a little similar to the snowplow that was in the Station 28, whatever it was called, the Thing box in Series 2, but, distinguished, but still gives me the same vibe there. The Final Girl with a pickaxe is looking really cool. I like this stride that Megan, this Final Girl has, looking very confident, and the eyeless here looking very menacing. I like the very alien-esque body, kind of almost like a spiderish body here, looking really good. So that brings us to the end of the 5 main boxes. There's still one more box to talk about that's exceptionally exciting for me, but that is the 5 main. I think after seeing the details of what's included, I think that the one I'm probably most excited for is probably still the Falconwood Files. I really like the designer here. I think there's a lot of interesting stuff going on. I think if you're a seasoned Final Girl player, I think this seems like the one that's kind of going to change the most, I think. I think second most exciting is probably, in a twist, the Killer from Tomorrow. That idea of flipping a killer, being able to convert it, and having almost like a two phases of killers to fight is very interesting. I like that. Third favorite, and only because I don't know enough about Razorface yet, but the modular map of Hellscape really has me interested, would probably be Hell to Pay. And then I think the fourth is going to be the Merrick. It's hard. Again, this ranking is very arbitrary. I'm going to get them all, and I'm excited about all of them. But the Merrick Murders, I can't, again, it's more of lack of information. I can't quite tell how the victim traps work, but those are looking very interesting. Again, I like the stress and tension that Final Girl gives you, and I think having these traps active during them is really going to ratchet that up, and I'm really into that. And then probably rounding it out for me is the Don't Make a Sound. Again, it seems like the most straightforward, but I like sandworms, and I like this kind of hearing mechanic that this killer will have. And so really overall pretty straightforward. But again, if you're a seasoned person and you just want one box, I think Falconwood Files is what I would lean to. And then if you're a newer person just getting into it, I think Don't Make a Sound seems like the most straightforward. Now, this is so cool, and they were really hyping up this announcement they were going to make when they reached a certain goal, the funding goal for this. And of course, this is the North Pole Nightmare. And I love Krampus, guys. I have this little Krampus clay figure here on my desk. It's just such a cool folklore monster. And to see this in Final Girl, to see it illustrated so well, really, really has me excited. And the fact that I now have to main Mrs. Claus for all future Final Girls games is both a blessing and a curse. So before we get into the actual logistics of how this is going to come out, let's do a quick look at the Final Girl box here with Krampus featuring Santa's Village of all things. And so again, this seems like a pretty straightforward box overall. You can see you got your killer, your location, Christmas Village here with Mrs. Claus and Cindy. It looks like we're going to have presents, Krampus presents, and then Santa presents, so probably good and bad things that will be sprung upon you. Whether you have the chance to decide what deck you draw on, or maybe they're all shuffled together, I don't really know. You can see there's present tokens here, so maybe these will be scattered about the map and be things you can pick up to hopefully help you. A couple finale cards, terror cards, and tokens. But overall, pretty straightforward box. I would say get this one, but as we'll discuss in a moment, maybe you won't have to choose. The Krampus miniature, look at that. I love that pose. Look at that hoof there. That just looks so badass. I absolutely love that miniature. The Mrs. Claus, I don't know how you make Mrs. Claus look like a badass, but, they went ahead and did it. I really like that pose with the cloak kind of billowing there. It looks like some kind of rolling pin. Obviously, her secret item. It's going to be Mrs. Claus's cookie roller or whatever. Really, really cool. I really dig this. And then Cindy looks like an elf. If his proportions are correctly, you can see this mallet here, the toy-making mallet. Really, really cool. And of course, I'm going to guess this is Blitzen. Do they say what reindeer this is? In any case, whatever reindeer, I really like the reindeer miniature. Cool vehicle, cool mini. I dig it. So yeah, the fact that they're going to do this special feature, they mentioned that this is the first, so obviously I would guess that the direction they're going to go is that, you know, all your major holidays are going to get special features as time goes on. Obviously, you can have killer leprechauns, killer St. Patrick's, killer Easter Bunny. Really, it's like endless amount of things that they could do there. But for them to start with the Christmas box with Krampus is really, really cool. I'm very happy about this. And so, again, this isn't really to talk about like the logistics of this Kickstarter, but I think the way that they're releasing this is very, very cool. And so this is going to be available. They're saying it's going to ship by this December, right, in time for Christmas. So that's pretty ambitious. It seems like they mentioned already starting production on it. So I think Van Ryder has been pretty good about fulfilling this in the past. So I got faith in them. But what's really interesting and what almost it gives a nice sense of camaraderie to people backing the campaign is that you could see here that the price of it is $15, and then it'll scale down depending on the volume of people who back this Kickstarter to the point where this is free. And so I would implore you, do us all a favor. If you're interested, go and back it so that we can all get Mrs. Claus and the Krampus for free. But aside from that, I think that this is a really cool box. So hopefully, we'll have the chance to get it. Regardless, $15 is pretty good for feature film box. It's usually, obviously here they show it as 30, so it's already going to be discounted. But I think this is a good pickup regardless. Obviously the Vincent Dutrait artwork looks incredible. I'm really glad they used him for this. And then the AJ Porfirio, well-seasoned, very well-regarded Final Girl designer, obviously. And I'm excited for this. The rest of the page here is really just going over the gameplay and looking at the miniatures here. We already looked at most of these. The other thing, obviously, so Series 1 and Series 2 both had a, a playmat with them, and it came in this box that in the Ultimate box kind of like slotted above all of the feature films. So they did not release a Series 3 playmat, which I'm kind of glad. It would have been, I think, a little redundant to have 3 playmats to use. I think the Series 2 playmat is overall an improvement to the Series 1 playmat, so having another one after that, again, would have been a little silly. But here they have the special effects crate, and so what's in this crate? So there is a new playmat, and this is actually a godsend to be able to have next to you. And there's one main reason, and you'll see it at the bottom here. It's the kind of round breakdown of the 6 phases. The 6 phases that happen, or 5 phases rather. And normally this is in the core box, right? You have your standard little, or on each of the maps, right? You have your little playmat thing. And usually that round breakdown is on the core box, little Final Girl, whatever thing. But if you play with the playmat, you don't have this. And so ironically, you kind of lose that information by playing with the playmat. And so to have the supplemental mat that you could play with you next to it, in addition to having extra space, which is nice, having that round breakdown, even when you play it a lot, it's just nice to have that there. And so I'm so glad that they did this. This is very, very nice. You can see this sweet dice tray. So to have a Final Girl, branded dice tray, that's cool to play with. Add to that immersion. I can retire my, generic dice tray that I use and use this one. And then this, I can't tell, the tier dice. And you can see here, there's a bunch of these with these teardrops. And it looks like this is a way to probably make the game a little bit easier, right? As you kind of, I'm going to guess there's 6 dice here, so they probably replace the standard dice. And so I think instead of failures, it looks like you'll place things on the tier track here. And you can see you'll get time. You can reduce the horror level. I can't re-roll dice, it looks like. So in general, this is like a handicap to play with if you want to play with the tier dice. I think people's biggest complaint about Final Girl is the difficulty. And I think they've already added a couple ways to make it easier in some of the Series 2 special effects stuff, or the bonus material in Series 2. But to have the tier dice, like an explicit way, like, hey, you want to play on easy mode, play with these tier dice, and you kind of have a catch-up mechanic if you start to roll a lot of failures. I think that's very nice, especially for new players, to have that as a crutch. Or maybe you just don't want to have a stressful game of Final Girl. You can play with the tier dice, and that's awesome. Dig it. You can see here the pledge level is pretty standard from what was Series 2. You could do it a la carte for each feature film. You can get all the feature films together, feature films and minis, and of course the ultimate, which is kind of the box with all the stretch goals and special effects box and all that good stuff. And you know, I'm whole hog on Final Girls, guys. This is what I'm going to go in on. But again, if you don't want all the stuff, hopefully this video will help you kind of differentiate each of the feature films and just give you an idea of what's going on here. And of course, the Ultimate Collection, if you want to get everything all at once, this is your option. I would encourage you, go watch my Series 1 and Series 2 video to get an overview before you jump in there and do that. But again, price-wise, you know, getting everything together, that is a solid price. So a couple stretch goals, and again, these are going to be added as the campaign goes on, but pretty standard stuff, what we would expect so far. The lore and scenario book, I'm glad that's coming back. The Paula mini, so all the Final Girls that didn't have minis, it looks like they are coming back to get them, so that's cool. The Paula mini here, the Agnes mini, epic finale cards, the rule book. I really gushed over this for Series 2. This is, so if you guys don't know, every feature film has its own little leaflet for the rules, the special rules, and so this kind of collates them into a nice book. I'm really glad this is coming back. And of course here the price break for Krampus is now $10, so keep going, guys, and we'll all get Krampus for free. That would be very nice. And a couple of the add-on stuff, pretty standard from what we've seen before. The Gruesome Books of Death, the secret boxes, the core boxes, and then the Ultimate Series 1 and 2 box if you guys wanted them. And everything down here, pretty just standard Kickstarter stuff. So overall, I think all 5 series boxes are looking, or also all 5 Series 3 feature films are looking really solid. I think that the supplemental playmat is cool. The new box looks really cool. You can see them all lined up here, right? I think they all complement. I like that they have a nice different color scheme for all of them, so they'll all look nice next to each other. And are we at 1 million yet? Unfortunately, not all the stretch goals obviously are unlocked yet, so we'll see the Season 3 vignette here. We're back with a brand new vignette for Season 3. Patience. Destiny of the Vigilant. I can't tell what this is getting at. Maybe like a Deadite, like Evil Dead kind of thing, maybe? Destiny of the Vigilant. I don't know. I think my Martian thing is wrong, especially after seeing Utopia. I don't think they're going to go that direction. But yeah, we'll see what the Season 3 vignette's going to be. As far as other stretch goals that I hope to see here, I would love to see a lore book that lets you bring in Series 1 or Series 2 Final Girls to the Series 3 locations and killers. Just kind of adding more to that lore. More sequels, right? Horror films are known for sequels, so why not have more of them? Kind of crossing series with lore and scenarios. I think that would be pretty cool to see. But other than that, I think all the stretch goals are looking good. So I'm losing my voice here. I think we did a good overview. Hopefully this is helpful to you guys if you are, again, picking them up a la carte, kind of get an idea of what you're getting in each of these boxes. So if you have any questions, be sure to leave me a comment below, and I'll do my best to answer them. If anything is wrong, I will try to leave a comment below. If anything gets revealed as the campaign goes on that kind of changes my feelings about any of this, I'll be sure to let you guys know. And be sure to like and subscribe. I really enjoy Final Girl, as it's prevalent from the last couple videos. And so if you want to see more Final Girl content, more board game content in general, be sure to stick around the channel. But I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.